Gonna get started here. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for being here on the for the town board meeting tonight, Monday, December 15th, 2025. Um, we have a couple of items that we wanted to mention early on, and so I'm gonna turn it over first to Councilwoman Berger for some thoughts and invocation, if you will.
All right. Well, I actually have two separate things to do here. We're doing tonight's meeting in memory of a number. Yes, it's Grandma. Um, the first thing I want to mention and ask us to do in memory of the two soldiers and the interpreter that were killed in the ISIS attack in Syria last week. It was last week, right? Okay, there's too much that's been happening lately. So if people can take a moment of silence. Okay. And then, unfortunately, as we celebrate Hanukkah, we have the attack in Sydney where 15 innocent people ranging in age from 10 to 87 were murdered in a vicious attack as they were celebrating Hanukkah at Hanukkah by the Sea, which they do every year. And 45 other people were injured, and 25 are still in the hospital, and 6 are in critical condition. And I just want us to think about the rise in anti-Semitism and the attacks around the world. The increase is awful. And I'd like us to take a moment of silence for the people that were killed.
And lastly, it's as a parent of a college student, as any of you with college students can understand, it's a nerve-wracking time when your kid goes off to college and they enter adulthood, and of course you can't help but fear a little bit or worry a little bit for their health and well-being. And obviously there's some parents who had terrible shock with the shootings at Brown on Sunday morning, or Saturday evening, sorry. And so we take a moment of silence again for the victims of violence at one of our nation's universities. It's a heavy start to a meeting, but as a group, I'd ask everybody to please rise and for the Pledge of Allegiance together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, I'd ask Fran Spoth, our town clerk, to please call the roll.
Supervisor Copa,
Here.
Councilmember Berger,
Here.
Councilmember Zuccalla,
Here.
Councilmember Marinucci.
Present.
The first item on our agenda tonight is approval of minutes for Monday, December 1st, 2025. Motion to adopt those as they appear.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. There are some proclamations, some on the agenda and some not on the agenda this evening. So we have, I'm going to start with Councilwoman Berger, who has a proclamation here for Jeff Vocal, or Judge Jeff Vocal in the village.
Hmm. Yeah.
You want it? Okay, we're gonna go
Thanks,
out of
Jeff.
sequence then. Sure, understood. So we have a couple proclamations this evening that are on the agenda, and the first one that the board has, I'm going to ask Councilman Zuccalla to read. Yes, for Jackie Berger, whose family is here in the audience tonight. Before he does that, I'll just say it's been an honor to serve for the past 8 years and to really know Jackie for the past 9. She's a tremendous ally, a tremendous confidant, and I've enjoyed every moment that we've spent working together. Maybe more some than others, but we've always found ways to work together and work together well, I think, on a number of significant issues. With that, I'll turn it over to Councilman Zuccalla.
Yes, hello, everyone. Forgive me, I'll stand. I will not read the entire proclamation. It's rather lengthy, but I will hit the highlights and say, Jackie, you've served for 8 years, 6 years with me. They've been interesting, exciting, not always smooth, but they shouldn't always be smooth. We're so proud of you. You were born in Brooklyn, New York, raised in the Jewish faith. You graduated from Lesley University, earning a bachelor's degree. You were a professor and mentor in education. You were encouraged to run for town board and were elected for the first time in 2017. You've served as deputy supervisor. And then you've served on so many boards and committees. It's just a short list. The chair of the Clean Energy Committee, the chair of the Climate Smart Task Force, the liaison to the Amherst Veterans Committee. You were instrumental in the work with the Veterans Memorial. You also served on a number of other boards and committees as liaison, including the Amherst Conservation Advisory Council, the Amherst IDA, the Arts and Culture and Public Places Board, the Design Advisory Board, the Library Board of Trustees, the Planning Board, the Recreation Commission. And I'll just stop there, but the list continues. Your public service is an example to all of us. And we thank you so much for your time on the town board and your dedication to this community.
Thank you. Marty tried to get a picture. Are we going to go do what we normally do? That's what I thought we were.
Councilwoman, is there anything you'd like to say?
Oh, I
Put you on the
hadn't
spot.
really thought about that. I just want to say that it's been an honor and a privilege to serve my community on the town board and work with the people I've worked with. The town has wonderful employees that I will miss. And I think that's it. Just thank you.
Thank you again.
Okay, now we'll go back to the
Yes.
library. All right. Oh, I'm looking at mine instead of the libraries. I'm like, wait, I didn't serve on the library board. Yes, well, I took it out of the envelope. He's pointing out his trusty dog decorated the envelope. but
That's what she thought of the proclamation.
she comes to meetings.
And
She participates. Okay, so the town of Amherst wanted to formally recognize the dedicated service and invaluable contributions of Jeff Vogel to the Amherst Library Board of Trustees. He served with distinction and unwavering commitment as a member for 19 years and 18 years as the president. He worked with 3 different directors, involved in hiring 2, navigating COVID. He worked to save the Williamsville Library from being eliminated, and he demonstrated a clear vision for the library's future with new policies, improvements across branch locations, and helped implement strategies for community engagement. And Jeff, can you come up as I give you this proclamation? I don't need that for you. But 19 years extra. Oh. Oh, wait. Okay, let me give you back the corporate envelope.
thank you. Would you like to share any thoughts? Sure. Okay. So that mic right there,
Use this line,
or that one?
or
That
that one might work. Take a working.
All right. Just to echo what Jackie said, it's really a delight to serve the town. And there are so many ways for people to get involved. And this was just a pet project of mine. I saw a need and a concern with the Williamsville Library. And then once that goal was achieved, then it became another goal and another goal and another goal as we navigated directors and all kinds of different issues that come up. So if you ever want to get involved, you should, because honestly, I knew nothing about the library system per se when I first got involved. It was just a desire to help and, grew into the role. And we've had wonderful, wonderful staff and directors and board members to work with. So I guess that would be my takeaway from this, is that really anybody can be involved. And, if you've got the time and the ability and stuff, you absolutely should, because it's a very rewarding experience. Thank you.
Just a personal aside, when Jeff and I have known each other for a long time, when I ran for village trustee, it was actually on Jeff's sign along with him, and then Mayor Mary Lother. And when I was, before I was town supervisor, I was village mayor, but I was also an architect, and I had a practice background with library design, and I was actually working on a design for West Seneca's library. And Jeff came to me and said, "Brian, I need some help." Said, "We need to be competitive with a grant cycle so that we can put an addition on Audubon." And I said, "Okay." I said, how's that work?" And he said, "Well, we don't have a budget to hire an architect." A few months later, I found myself doing an interview with the library, the Erie County Public Library, for a grant for West Seneca, and then staying in the room as he and Roseanne Butler Smith came up, and we presented an idea for Audubon. So he's very resourceful in that way, and I'm happy to have been a friend or to be a friend and have been able to work with him here in the town as well. So thank you, Jeff, and congratulations for him. Next, we have a proclamation for somebody who once told me she was only staying for 6 months after I was elected. You knew I was going to do that. As I was elected supervisor, my predecessor said, "Hey, I have one favor to ask Brian." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Lisa just needs a couple months before she retires." I am going to take the time to read this whole proclamation, just as my predecessor would have. So, whereas Lisa Kistner has devoted decades of service to the town of Amherst, beginning her work as legislative aide for Erie County Legislature in 1998 for 12 years before joining Amherst team in 2010 as an assistant to Supervisor Barry Weinstein, MD, and continuing on in 2018 with Supervisor Brian Culpa. And whereas Lisa's commitment to public service has been demonstrated through her tireless work as a communications director, research assistant, resident specialist, directly serving the citizens of Amherst, and whereas Lisa Kistner further exemplifies her dedication to the community as a member of the Amherst Board of Ethics, which seeks to foster an environment where Amherst town employees and citizens work together in good faith, and as a member of the Distressed Properties Task Force, whose mission it is to improve the quality of life for all town residents through revitalizing and strengthening neighborhoods, combating blight, and connecting people to resources. And whereas Lisa has been a proactive leader in creative community engagement, notably helping to organize and lead the Amherst to Amherst Walking Challenge, fostering friendly competition and promoting wellness among residents in different locations. And whereas a philanthropist at heart, Lisa seeks to promote the welfare of others, spearheading yearly food drives for Feed More New York, diaper drives for local food pantries, and raising generous donations of money for people in need. And whereas through her association with Starfish Ministries, Lisa has been a longtime supporter of Youth and Recreation's Warm Clothing Project, and more recently, the pop-up school supply and clothing pantry in partnership with Sweet Home Family Support Center. And whereas Lisa Kistner's professionalism, compassion, and steadfast service have been invaluable to the town of Amherst and its residents, now therefore be it proclaimed, the town of Amherst does hereby express its profound gratitude and recognize Lisa Kistner for her exceptional and longstanding dedication to public service, the Amherst community, and Supervisor Culpa's well-being mentally. Thank you. Lisa, would you like to share your thoughts?
First, I want to thank the town board for this honor because I'm very touched, and I didn't know this was going to happen. I came in because the Supervisor Culpa and Jackie were going to get honored. That's why I came tonight. So I'm a little underdressed for the occasion. But it has been the joy of my life to be able to serve both at the county level and to take care of problems for people at the town level. And I am very blessed for the time that I have spent working on behalf of the public and our community. And I just want to say thank you to all of you for the opportunity, because it's been great and it's been wonderful. And I really actually made it through that last 7.5 years.
So, the last thing, and there's not a proclamation here tonight to honor him, but I want to recognize just a couple people who've been huge components of everything we've done in specifically in my office. So if you don't know, Joe McMahon along with Jessica O'Neill are the people who I rely on day to day for pretty much everything, whether it's scheduling, whether it's talking to me as like a basketball coach, trying to make sure that I stay, keep my head in the game, whether it's working through operational or through capital ideas, whether it's commiserating sometimes, whether it's celebrating. Joe's been a absolutely tremendous chief of staff. He's somebody who is more than happy, I think, at times to be behind the scenes, and but he is somebody who Western New York is lucky to have. He's been somebody who Western New York has benefited from, not just Amherst, but lots of communities through Western New York. He is somebody who is absolutely committed to the idea of making sure all of our communities of people, whether it's faith and culture, all of our diversity in Amherst gets celebrated and raised up. And he's a person who has just been a tremendous friend. I'm so happy to have been able to work and serve in this role with him for the past 8 years. I have a tremendous team in Joe and Jessica, and if people ask me whether or not tonight's a little bittersweet, I will tell you that every day for the past year has been a little bittersweet, knowing that ultimately I was reaching a term limit, and in just reflecting on how much it means to work with such talented, professional, and wonderful people as Joe and Jessica. That said, I think, well, I don't know that we have anything else here that needs to be recognized, so I'm perfectly content to keep moving with the meeting.
So, okay, I guess I'll go then. We have a proclamation here to honor our supervisor at tonight, his last meeting. He's the 47th supervisor of our town, but his public service started long before that, both with being a village trustee and then the village mayor, and then before joining us. I did tell him tonight that he technically hasn't hit the term limit for a council member yet, so maybe we'll see him back in a couple of years. But over the last 2 years, I've really had the opportunity to get to know him better. I am very thankful for that. I think Supervisor Culpa has a brilliant mind for a vision, even when I couldn't see the full vision, and he had to explain it to me 6 different ways, and all of the questions that I would ask to make sure that I fully understood what I was voting for. I'm thankful for his patience. I'm thankful for that vision. I'm thankful for how much he loves this town, and that we will continue to benefit for decades to come from his leadership and the things that he's put forward. Mainly Willowdale, which is very exciting and something I'm very proud of and thrilled to have seen the supervisor be able to get it across the finish line into its next phase. But there are many other things. Celebrating our town's diversity. In a town of 130,000 people, it's really easy to forget all the different little communities, and I thank the supervisor for keeping all of them in mind, and attending their events and going to the different things and reminding us, you know, who lives in which areas of the town, because no one knows a map of the town of Amherst like Brian Culpa knows a map of the town of Amherst. I thank you for envisioning a better Amherst and for putting all of us forward when it's been really hard these past couple of years, and really the past 18 years that you've been doing all of this. I thank you. I thank your family for giving you to us. And I think that we will continue to see for, again, decades and generations to come, the positive impact you've made on our town. So thank you, Supervisor.
We have one announcement. Holiday happenings is December 19th from 6 to 8 at the Senior Center. Mary Di, do they need to register? Okay. unlimited. It's always lots of fun.
All right, we have one public hearing this evening. And that public hearing is on resolution 2025-1036, a local law to amend the zoning ordinance to create an urban renewal area overlay district, or URAOD. I'm going to motion to open the public hearing at this time.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor, members of the board. I'm Chuck Malcolm, Special Counsel to the town. Also with me is Lori Stillwell, the Community Development Director for the town. Before the board tonight is a proposed local law that will do two things. One, it will amend the zoning law to provide for an urban renewal area overlay district number 1, and we'll talk about what that does and why it's being proposed. And it also amends the zoning map to create district number 1. So an overlay district, it's a special type of zoning district. It's permitted by the town's power to enact the zoning law under Article 16 of the town law. And it's a special type of district that sits over top of what we call the base zone. The base zoning district is currently, what the zoning map lays out for different areas of the town. The overlay district will sometimes provide additional obligations and requirements or restrictions. It also can be used to modify procedures that apply in that particular area where the overlay district sits. And the overlay district can also relax certain restrictions and requirements depending upon the comprehensive plan and the different planning documents adopted by the town board. So what's being proposed is to create an overlay district in the urban renewal area that was set forth by the town. And if you look at the map there, the proposed overlay district is depicted in yellow. It's applicable to the 10 parcels that make up the greater Boulevard Mall property within the urban renewal area. The base zoning districts are currently Center 8, 5, and 2.5, and the land affected is approximately 68.7 acres. So if we go back to kind of the history of what's happened here with respect to efforts to revitalize the Boulevard Mall property, the town board, as we've alluded to earlier, created an urban renewal area, and utilizing the powers that the town has under the general municipal law. And in addition, as part of that process, the town developed an urban renewal plan. And that urban renewal plan, in order to get to the point where it's a planning document that's used by the town, there's involvement of the public, there's planning board review, and all that had occurred previously. And the urban renewal plan specifically noted that there were certain zoning restrictions, development restrictions that were in place in the law that would need to be adjusted or modified in order to facilitate the town's vision for redevelopment of this property. And in that plan, it noted specifically that overlay districts, plan unit development concepts, things of that nature were tools in the toolbox that the town board had to address certain issues related to the current law. So what this proposed overlay district does is it supersedes certain requirements of the base zoning district. It addresses certain substantive requirements and restrictions, modifies those, and Lori is going to kind of go through and walk the town board through what those are. And it also can provide different procedural processes that may be necessary. And specifically, a couple things it does from a procedural standpoint is it allows the planning board to consider the urban renewal plan as part of its review. And it also modifies or deviates from what the traditional modification rules are in order to have to come back to the planning board when there's changes to an approved site plan. So those have been modified. Of note, when this law was initially proposed and developed, there was a procedural path that was laid out where the planning board would be a recommending body or wouldn't have the actual site plan review, that they were going to be kind of taken out of the equation and everything was going to come to the town board based on feedback from the public. That's been removed. And of note, the planning board is going to remain the body to review and render decisions on projects falling under major site plan review. So to address some of the substantive changes to the base zoning districts with this overlay, I'm going to turn it over to Lori.
Hi, so now that we're going to get into the elements of the, oh, sorry. Lori Stillwell, Town of Amherst Community Development Director. So this is the elements of the overlay that affect site design, and the first one is the base zoning flexibility. So the overlay provides the developer the option to apply either the underlying mixed-use center districts that are on the ground now, or utilize the shopping center district as the base zoning applicable to the site. So essentially, upon comparison of the underlying district options and the rezonings that we've seen in the area, it was felt that both the shopping center district and the 5A center districts, with the tweaks that I'll go over, can effectively regulate development in a manner that will support the goals of our urban renewal plan. For the core street framework, there's two main core streets that are required to subdivide the 68 acres area into initial block structure. And this provides us with adequate utility connections. So this is our key streets and frontages plan that is made part of the law. Also, further block subdivision requirements are relaxed to allow for phased, flexible infill development over time. It's not that the town isn't anticipating additional block breakup with internal streets, it's that rather that the current 5A law is rather prescriptive in requiring exactly where those go. And we found that those are a little bit too prescriptive to the point where they're hindering redevelopment options. For street dimensions, street dimensional standards are reduced to create a more intimate pedestrian scale streetscape and allow for the potential future conversion of drive aisles into more formal local streets. So this shift is really due to the constraints and the geography of the site size. Overall, we ran a few analyses and we determined that if we reduced the street width and still provided the core street elements that would provide that pedestrian atmosphere, that we would be able to fit additional infill onto the site and therefore a higher tax base. The overlay creates a new frontage type called boulevard frontage. This is derived from our version of our 5A's current minor and major arterial frontage types and will be mandated along Niagara Falls Boulevard, Maple Road, and Alberta Drive, regardless of the underlying district chosen. So, I want to go back. So if you look at the green outline on the periphery of the site, that is where boulevard frontage is required. So the boulevard frontage allows for 2 rows of teaser parking in between the building facade and the streetscape. A developer does not have to take advantage of that. That's just the max that would be allowed. And the intention here is really to ramp up the density and intensity of buildings towards the inner geography of the site around those core streets. So this would create kind of a smaller scale liner gateway buildings along the periphery and the outer edges and allow for adequate transition and building scale from the neighborhoods that exist now into a higher density towards the interior of the site. For parking standards, the overlay removes off-street parking minimums and provides a 2-story height bonus for projects that include structured parking. Also, minimum parking standards are removed to address a major constraint in attracting significant infill and achieving a transit-oriented development as outlined in our urban renewal plan. It's not that we won't end up with parking, off-street parking, it's just that we're not dictating the full amount. For permitted and prohibited uses, land uses that are inconsistent with the goals of the urban renewal plan, such as single-family detached, motor services, and vehicular sales are prohibited. And also drive-through facilities are restricted to areas along frontages of Niagara Falls Boulevard and Maple Road. The next concept is a little interesting. So this introduces the ability for primary street flexibility. Currently, in our 5A center districts of zoning code, primary streets are established based on the road class. And when you add them together with our build-to requirements and our hold the corner provisions, essentially they tell a developer exactly where they must start their building on a site and which edges of the block face they must build out along in an initial phase on day one. This is extremely prescriptive. We found that it is too rigid for something to allow for phased infill development over time, which is what we're expecting for the site. So the major shift here in the overlay places these decisions back in the hands of the developer to identify primary street if they abut one, and then it's more in line with supporting that phased development that we're expecting. For open space standards, publicly owned open spaces may count towards the percentage of required open space with planning board or town board approval. Also, temporary minor commercial uses like kiosks and food stands are permitted to activate public spaces. And then the requirement for open space to be contiguous is removed. So we are enticing little pocket parks all over the place if we can't create green space in one full area. For design and activation guidance, the overlay encourages but doesn't prescribe vertical mixed uses along public spaces, pedestrian walkways and multi-use trails, mobility infrastructure, cohesive architectural design to establish that neighborhood identity we're looking for, and inclusion of active uses within open space, such as sport courts, dog parks, and playgrounds. So in summary, what we're really trying to do with the collection of provisions in the overlay is we're trying to relax some overly prescriptive elements of section 5A that have been really difficult to work with. Those overly prescriptive provisions really end up limiting project viability, and they often force our petitioners to seek rezoning or excessive variances. We're trying to remove the need for that. Also, we're trying to increase the property marketability and redevelopment potential. So we're allowing developer-led initial building placement rather than strictly following a priority street order requirements. And then we're encouraging incremental phased redevelopment over a 20 to 30-year horizon that will align with commercial leasing and construction financing realities that we're seeing in the market now. And we're enticing potential future density through reduced street widths, elimination of parking minimums, and incentives for increased building height with structured parking. And lastly, we're really trying to bring in flexibility into the existing zoning to attract reinvestment and limit uncertainty. So the town is really working, we're working with a gray field site. It has a number of constraints that exist. It is landlocked by existing development, so we have to be creative in how we're attracting redevelopment of the site.
So what we're asking the board to do tonight is to review and consider approving these changes to the zoning law. The planning board has reviewed and recommended approval. In order to take action, obviously the State Environmental Quality Review Act requirements need to be satisfied. It's respectfully submitted that the final generic environmental impact statement for the Boulevard Central districts is applicable, and the finding statement thresholds are not exceeded by this proposal. This is consistent with the urban renewal plan and all of the town board's efforts to move this property forward, of which it's been previously determined that the final generic environmental impact statement and the statement of findings are applicable. And that has been affirmed by the 4th Department Appellate Division in some litigation we had over the eminent domain process with respect to this particular area. And with that, Lori and I are available for any questions the board has.
All right, let's start by opening it up to questions or comments from the board.
Actually, if I just have one. Of course, I support this and will enact it. When do you think the project will begin? Physical work on remodeling the property?
You know, I might defer to Supervisor Culp on exactly the timing, but with respect to the redevelopment of the project, or I'm sorry, the property, at the prior meeting, as you know, we had the discussion, or 2 prior meetings ago, I think we had the discussion of the agreement with Benderson. There are certain things that need to happen, certain procedural not roadblocks, but like landmarks or mile markers. One of which is the town is going to, once the agreement's approved by all parties, finalized, and, you know, kind of we're on track there, the town's going to have to get site control. So there's a process by which we're going to have to undertake that. And once the agreement's finalized, we're going to get on that right after the first of the year. Thanks to that, right, Steve? And
Correct.
and then that's a court process. We have a filing we have to make, and then, you know, once the orders entered by the court, we're hoping Q1 of next year. There's infrastructure construction obligations of both the town and the developer that are going to begin in earnest. There's obviously demolition work that needs to be undertaken by the developer. That's their obligation in the agreement. So it's all going to be dependent upon when the court issues the order of acquisition, which we hope will be Q1 of next year.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions at the moment?
Yes, if I may. Hi, Lori. So you and I have spoken before, but I think I've made it clear that I really want to invite more people to live and be residents of our town. And so I think sometimes when people hear things like this or developer-led development, they're not really sure how that benefits our residents. Density is exciting to me in an area where it will fit, and I think this is a great one. But if you could kind of explain why such prescriptive zoning requirements harm us and who we're trying to get into the town and how we're trying to allow our residents to be able to afford to live here.
Yeah, so in the way that some form-based codes are structured, we're finding that they're a new tool. They're relatively new, the last 10, 15 years in the planning realm. And while they really, they aim to fill in buildings that are of a certain form rather than use. So they stress the form to create that neighborhood feel rather than the active use. And so the best part about that is that you can have a multitude of uses here. So you can have first floor commercial and then upper story residential. You can have that now in our shopping center district, and you can have it in our mixed use districts. But in some cases, the form-based codes also aim to really fill in more urban blocks, which sometimes works well in suburban areas that are trying to create infill neighborhoods, and sometimes they do not, just based on constraints of geography and other factors, where utilities are, things like that. So one of the things we're trying to do is trying to create a balance between those form codes and how driving that kind of building design, streetscape design, but also still allowing that mixture of uses that will create the residential options and the more opportunities for a dynamic neighborhood.
I just want to add, sort of to answer your question, is that the planning department and the planning board are working on revisions to the code because some of the restrictions that have been put in have not worked well for projects, and people have had to come to the zoning board with 15 or 20 requests to have things waived. So we're finding that the concept worked, but the reality presented challenges. And I think this is really important to help move this project forward, that we provide that relief and invite lots of different types and forms of structures on the site.
Okay, anything further from this board? Then I'm going to invite questions or comments from the audience.
Joe Wojtowicz, 35 East Cyrus. This planning stage for the boulevard, pardon me? The planning stage for the Boulevard Mall has been ongoing now for over 3 years. And as was formalized by the town board in 2022 with the creation of the urban renewal area. Since then, there have been no action. No developers have come forth to present formal plans for any projects in that area. In the meantime, this area has turned into a big Lego set with town planners throwing up all these ideas of what it could be if a developer came forth and bring in their $100 million to build it. In 2022, the planning board rezoned the mall area for 10-story tall buildings, arguing that it could attract more downstate developers. 3 years later, we're still listening to those crickets. So 6 years after Douglas Jamal bought the mall, we're still back on square one. There is a phrase for this type of activity with the eminent domain called land banking, where a town seizes land with no hard plan on what it will be built and when. The Institute of Justice, a legal nonprofit group which advocates for public rights, did an analysis on state eminent domain laws a few years ago, with New York State getting an F rating, one of only 3 states in the country to get that rating. New York provides little protection for the public that towns will not abuse the privilege of seizing property and use it for public purpose, such as airports or public highways. Taking property just to evict owners to the benefit of a business is not a good public interest. If so, shall we all be worried about what our property could be taken at any time for any reason? We live in a capitalist country. We do best when government steps aside and allows developers to decide if and when they will build. When a government becomes the legal controller in a commercial project, we risk losing that freedom, and property now became entangled in politics that can distort and warp projects that leave us with unusable results. Until verifiable developers come forth with plans on paper on what they want to build and can get the planning board approval on all those areas, we should do what is ethical and put a hold on this project. It is easy to look ahead and see the next owner of the mall area doing what the current owner did and walk away without any recourse. That would leave the town in debt in tens of millions of dollars with property it has no right to control. I'd also ask the board to put off any vote on this. The testimony given by the lawyers at the beginning of this presented quite a bit of information that I think needs to be digested by the residents and presented further on to the board at a later time. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing none, I'm going to motion to adopt the seeker findings associated with the action.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now, let's now motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And our next item is Resolution 1037, which is the adoption of local law to amend Chapter 203 zoning, creating the Urban Renewal Area Overlay District, or UARAOD, ZTA 2023-05. I'm going to first motion the resolution as it appeared in the agenda.
Second.
Next, on the question, I'm going to just take a moment to address some items. So first of all, we've been working on this project as a town for the past 8 years. A little more than 8 years ago, the property fell into receivership. It has undergone a number of town plans, and that has always been in conjunction with the property owners post-receivership. It was the developers who came to us to ask for help on a stuck site. The town responded by putting together what I think is a very well-seasoned and adaptable plan. We have yet to take anything with eminent domain, albeit we look forward to doing so. Our eminent domain process has actually been upheld by New York State courts, and in this case, the project is based, in my mind, loosely on the writings in the the descriptions of projects set forth in Retrofitting Suburbia, which is a book by Ellen Dunham Jones and June Williamson, which talks about land use and focuses a lot on shopping center and dead shopping center on the adaptation of those facilities, ideas of urban renewal, ideas of eminent domain, ideas of public-private partnership are all well articulated and laid out in that document, examples from around the country, and timeframes which replicate sort of our time frame, close to a decade of planning and effort. This project we've had the good fortune to work with significant planning firms, including Code Studio and Lee Eidensweiler, along with Victor Dover and Joe Cole from Dover Cole Associates. These are nationally renowned planning firms. We've been able to work together to put together a project along with our attorneys at Hodgson Russ, who really understand land use better than almost anybody out there and understand the complications of private and public sector efforts. So I thank Chuck and I thank Dan Spitzer from that practice. With all the quadri of exceptional talent that we've had work on this project, including our own planning department, our own attorney's office, I'm confident in the project's direction and movement. And with that, if there's any other questions or anything else on the question?
I just want to remind people that the owners of the property have asked us to do the eminent domain.
Anything else?
Yeah, just that we cannot put forth site plans in front of the planning board until these changes are made. So we don't have final site plans or anything to review at this time because the amendments can't go before the planning board. So these are the steps to get to where site plan review and the planning board will happen. They have to change what they could do within the property in order to be able to present what they'd like to do with it.
Further? Okay. All right, with that, again, there's a motion, there's a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. It's exciting to me that, it's policy wonk that I am, that we can adopt a zoning amendment creating an urban renewal area overlay district in my final meeting on this board, that I think is a really well-prepared and thought-out effort. So thank you, Lori. Thank you to the planning department. Thanks, Dan, for all of your efforts.
And you got to mention your nerdy book, so.
I got to mention my nerdy book, which has lived on my credenza for the past 8 years here in Town Hall.
And he's asked lots of us to read it.
Yes. It's recommended reading. With that, our next item on the agenda is public expression. There is a list. I'm going to grab that, or thank you, Councilwoman. What? Yeah. Yes.
Do you need a voice vote?
We don't need a voice vote? No. Okay.
We did vote.
With that, our
We
next.
could vote again if it would make you happy.
Thank you. All right. Next item on the agenda is public expression. I'm going to motion to open that. We do have a list, so there's a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we'll start with Jason Botticelli.
Hi, good evening. Jason Botticelli, Cottonwood Drive. And I've been over on Cottonwood for about 20 years now, lifelong member of Amherst. Over the last several years, the deer population in the neighborhood has gotten out of control. Me, multiple members of my household have had several close calls in our motor vehicles with them. It's not even just a once in a while thing. It's like nightly, daily, 5, 6 more blocking the road coming through, and they're very brazen. They don't even move for you anymore when you start coming down the road. It doesn't seem to be an issue just unique to our neighborhood. I didn't know if this had been brought before the board before, and if there was anything the town. I know years ago, I grew up on Ranch Trail West. I knew years ago they did bait and shoot. I know that's had a lot of controversy, but I didn't know if there was any plans to try to cull the deer population. and
So
what
we
town-
still, I'll just say we still do work with DEC to do our best to do that. And I don't think it's unique to you. I could drive home tonight and there could very well be a buck walking straight down the center of Milton. So, but it is an issue, and it's something that, every couple of years we need to regroup and talk to DEC about. So it'll be something that we'll bring back up to them.
Okay,
Okay,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Scott Conway?
Supervisor and members of the board, I'm here to comment on Resolution 2025-1072 regarding the purchase of 24 Axon fixed location license plate reader cameras. Before you vote on the continued warrantless surveillance of residents and visitors to Amherst, I'd like to add a bit of context regarding ALPR systems, what these devices are, as well as recent examples of harms caused by ALPR systems, dragnet surveillance from around the country. I've cited sources for my claims and will provide a copy of this statement with sources to the town clerk. For additional context, the Amherst PD signed a similar contract for 20 ALPR cameras from another vendor, Flock, on December 2nd, 2024. You might see the cameras around, but don't ask the police where they are because they won't tell you, citing investigative sensitivity. The contract in question is for starting an annual subscription for 24 Axon Outpost license plate reader cameras. However, they are far more than older cameras that merely capture license plate content. Axon's portal allows police officers to search for vehicles not only by license plate, but also by descriptions such as blue SUV or political bumper sticker. Searches can be retroactive or alerts can be sent to operators based off of matches of license plates from predefined hot lists. Access to an organization's cameras can easily be shared with other organizations within Axon's portal. As I mentioned earlier, Amherst PD currently operates a network of 20 Flock cameras, but since they don't have a Flock transparency page, I can't determine how many organizations have access to their cameras. Besides other organizations, Axon uses data from the cameras as well. Unless you opt out of the Axon Customer Experience Improvement Program, which is enrolled by default, they'll take images, apply privacy-preserving transformations onto them, and claim the modified content on their own, then using it in AI models. I wish I could say more about Amherst's usage of their Flock system, but they shot down my Freedom of Information Law request regarding access to their license plate search history, since that would reveal non-routine criminal investigative techniques or procedures. Imagine if there's a needle hidden in such a haystack that shows misuse, such as a police officer stalking their ex. It's happened before. Apparently, the public won't be able to find out. On another note, there's been no shortage of recent misuses of ALPR systems across the country. In May 2025, a woman from Texas was tracked across state lines by Texas police for seeking an abortion, which is legal in neighboring states. In October 2025, a woman in Colorado was wrongly accused of theft based solely on ALPR footage. Several times this year, ALPR systems have been used to surveil activists and protest organizers around the country. And if you haven't guessed it already, ALPR systems have been used extensively for immigration enforcement by federal agencies such as CBP and ICE. And that last point is specifically worth noting for Axon cameras. Flock prohibits use for immigration purposes. Obviously, they don't care, but on paper they disallow it. Axon, on the other hand, does not say anything about use for immigration purposes. Last, not only are these cameras funded by taxpayers, but they're not even a real investment. The town doesn't own these cameras. They have no control over them and are held to pay whatever Axon wants to charge in order to access them. This contract does not merely regard the installation and use of 20 cameras. It enables our police to continue taking part in and contributing to a national surveillance network. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, John Smith. John Smith. Not yet.
Hello, everybody. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to talk here today because I actually live in the city of Buffalo, but I grew up in the town of Amherst. So that's why I didn't really fill out any information.
Just have to state your name and address for.
I put down John Smith, so
I understand. So is that your actual name?
no, it's not. But given the sensitivity of the agenda item, I did not want to disclose my real name.
So you're speaking anonymously with an anonymous address.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Well, pretty much everything the last person said is accurate. I can confirm everything that he said, and I have the same evidence that supports what he said. But at the same time, what he didn't touch upon is the impact this has locally in Amherst. These cameras track everyone everywhere they go, no matter who you are and what you do. And installing all these in Amherst alone will allow the police department to track all those people that go through Amherst every day until the moment those cameras are shut off or deactivated at any point. The biggest issue with these cameras, though, is like the previous person said, they're warrantless surveillance on a massive scope. And the police have the ability to look at the system. They can look up a car. They can see everywhere it went in a certain time frame. They can identify it any way they want. And the most important point that I can think of related to these cameras is the way they work was already ruled unconstitutional warrantless surveillance by Chief Justice John Roberts, the Supreme Court, back in 2018. So in my opinion, it's only a matter of time before they review this again and it gets struck down at the Supreme Court level. So I'm not sure why you're going to waste $300,000 of taxpayer money to install them when there's a good chance that within the next 5 years they'll just be removed anyway or turned off. So that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Tom Frank.
Good evening, town board members. My name is Thomas Frank, and I'm a resident of the village of Williamsville in the town of Amherst. And I want to thank you for giving me my 3 minutes. And I'd like to comment on the resolution 1039 regarding the comprehensive planning project bond resolution for $250,000. What I'd like to bring to your attention has to do with the Glen Park Joint Board being the lead agency for the Ellicott Creek is the town of Amherst Central Park Greenway, and the New York State Department of State has been having, it's a statewide project, the Niagara Watershed Greenway, Ellicott Creek and Tonawanda Creek are a part of that, and that they're giving away some $8 million on April 4th for the local government efficiency grants having to do with management and maintenance of the infrastructure, the hydrogeographic topography that supports the water lines, the sewer lines, and the highway storm sewers. And this is all a part of the relicensing of the Niagara Power Project that goes through 2050. And that should, as far as the, this was all in the comprehensive plan for the village of Williamsville in 2010, and it was never implemented. That the plan that they've got, I don't know how many, 34,000 for the upgrade of the plan should include what was in the original plan that was never implemented as far as the interconnection of the Glen Park Joint Board to the Amherst of Central Park. The Greenway includes the Westwood Pharmaceutical Country Club, the golf course, which is the county park that you sold for $1.10. That the other county park is where Ellicott and Tonawanda Creek converge. And Ellicott Creek is 47 miles long. And this has to do with the, as far as the Greenway trails and the parks and trails, that's a part of the system as far as the collaboration for fellow municipalities on this project. So looking forward to collaborating with you on in the Amherst State Park, the boiler house as far as the restoration
Frank,
as an
respectfully,
environmental
time's up.
education center tied into the school districts for the climate change and the environmental.
Tom, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I'm looking forward. It's a 5-year, $10 million capitalization.
Tom,
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
I will just say that for the past 18 years that I've been in elected office, Tom has consistently championed the idea of greenway and greenway along our blueways, along our creeks and water, and for that, you're to be commended. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
All right. Anybody else?
Joe Wojtowicz, 35 B. Cyrus. I don't know how to say how appalled I am to the last decision to pass this lying zoning law for the Boulevard Mall. This is your last board meeting for Amherst, and you're pushing this thing through. Nobody else has got a say on this. You're taking away protection laws that Amherst has put in place for years, and you want to override all those. You mentioned previously to a certain book you mentioned about eminent domain. When I was in college, I took a course in economics, and I had to do a book report on a certain topic area. I picked one out at the library, and then I was reading for the first couple pages. I said, there's something wrong in here. Flipped the book over and read the back cover on the author. The author was running for the president's position, the U.S. president. He was a Communist Party member. Put the book back in the library, got a different one. So just saying you read a book on this somewhere does not mean that it really stands up to support everything that we stand for in this country. You also did tell a lie, too, that the owner of the Boulevard Mall asked you for eminent domain. That's not true. JCPenney did not ask you. They own their building and the property underneath it. You're forcing them off their building because Douglas Jamal wanted this. And if you said you've been working on this for 8 years, it sounds like you knew about this project before you even came into office. So I wonder how much input Jamal had on before you got in here even. This is just not fair to the town or the people, residents, everybody around here. You're going to be putting the town 8 years and you've done nothing on this. You expect the town to put it in another 8 years or so? How long is this going to continue and how much money is it going to cost? Start demolition on here and we're up on the tax bill for tens of millions of dollars and we have no way of getting out of this because there's no developer here yet. Benderson said nothing on this project of what they're going to build. They refused to reply. That means they could back away at any moment and we have no recourse, just like Jamal did. This is not very good precedence for your last board vote to put this in.
Okay. Anybody else? Please come forward.
My name is Charlie Grahoviak. I live at 92 Linwood.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
Yes, thank you. My name is Charlie Grahoviak. I live at 92 Linwood. Thank you to the board members or council members. Thank you to the supervisor. Thank you to the audience here today for your time. My reason for speaking here today is related to Resolution 2025-1072. The contract proposed with Axon Enterprise for the cameras, the so-called cameras. My sentiments are similar to the gentleman with the hat, whose name I remember, and similar to the anonymous gentleman named John Smith, or known as John Smith. Over $300,000 proposed. What for? Seems to be that it could be summed up as a solution in search of a problem. I'll let that soak. The abundance of opportunities for abuse relative to the noted but limited perceived benefits, I think are not ignorable. They're required to be pointed out by those who see them. I think a lot of people see them, actually. I'm glad to see that I'm not the only one speaking here today on this. It's actually quite refreshing. Whether or not someone wants to speak their own name about it, I don't think matters, not necessarily to speak to the power of the multiple voices here today making note of this. Again, I'm going to let that point soak. Does this actually help? What's the real effect? Perhaps I'm being repetitive on these points, but the abuse potential related to the people working within the town, within these systems, and the deliberate sharing of information that can then result in abuse from other third and fourth and so on parties that the information gets shared with. The opportunities for hacking, again, at the intermediate and further level, can't be ignored. So please reconsider, and thank you for your time.
Anybody further? Seeing none, I'm going to motion to close public expression, return to regular agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We do have a consent agenda this evening. I'm going to ask our town clerk, please read the consent agenda.
Councilmember Lavin, 1. Town Attorney, 3, 4, 5. Town Clerk, 1. Building Maintenance, 1, 2, 3, 4. Controller, 1, 2. Contract Compliance, 1, 2, 3. Court, 1. Emergency Services, 1. Highway, 1. Human Resources, 1, 2, 3. Planning, 1, 2. Police, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 withdraw, 8 was withdrawn, and 9 was withdrawn. Senior Services, 1. Sewer Plant 16, 1, 2. Youth and Recreation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Communication, 1. Consent, 2. Refer to attorney. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
On the question,
Sorry.
I just want to make clear what's going on here for those who may not be familiar with the consent agenda. The item for that resolution is withdrawn for right now to be introduced at a later time when we vote on the consent agenda. Just wanted to make clear exactly what we were doing.
No, we withdrew it
Yeah.
totally
Right, and it can be reconsidered, it's withdrawn from tonight,
Yes.
for tonight.
from tonight's consent agenda.
There's a motion. Was there a second?
Yes.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we do have a couple items that we have to deal with in session tonight. The first is Town Attorney Resolution 1, Resolution 1039. I'm going to motion the original resolution.
Second.
On that item, I'm going to motion to adopt the seeker findings associated with the bond resolution.
Yes. And then,
Wait, so there's a motion to adopt seeker findings.
oh, second.
On the question of seeker, all in favor?
Aye.
On the resolution itself, we do have an amendment.
I don't think I got handed the amendment. What?
Do we have an amendment for the screen? We have an amendment?
Not to the, not to the bond resolution.
Okay, I circled it as an amended, so. Got it. Oh,
Oh.
6 under.
Yeah, I
circled
wrote
one.
that one had an amendment
So
too.
we don't have an amendment. It is bond resolution. I'm going to, so there's a motion, there was an adoption of seeker. Next, I'm going to ask the town clerk for a voice vote, please.
Don't we need to move the,
We moved the item, then we
Okay.
voted on seeker.
right, never mind.
Now we call for a vote on the item.
That's correct.
That's right, next
Supervisor-
meeting we'll get it right.
The amendment that didn't belong confused
Yeah,
me.
Yes, I know, I did the same thing.
Supervisor Copa,
Yes.
Councilmember Berger,
Yes.
Councilmember Zucala,
Yes.
Councilmember Marinucci.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda is a resolution 1040. It's the police dispatch interior renovation expansion. It's a bond resolution in the amount of 100,000. I'm going to first motion the resolution as it appeared.
Second.
On the question, I'm going to motion to adopt the seeker findings associated with the project.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, with the motion and the second, I'm going to ask our town clerk for a voice vote on the resolution.
Okay. Supervisor Copa.
Yes.
Councilmember Berger.
Yes.
Councilmember Zucala.
Yes.
And Councilmember Marinucci.
Yes.
Resolution 1044 is the Lawley Insurance Proposal and Insurance Binder, CRS 6028. I'm going to motion to the original resolution first.
Second.
And on the question, we do have an amendment here.
Yes. So do you have the amendment?
That's the amendment with the.
Yeah, I know. That's what I wanted to make sure. As you can see, a number of the dollar amounts have been adjusted based on previously paid for contract, the new insurance rates. And so I would just like to move the amendment as it appears on the screen. Do you want to add anything?
Just that really the changes had directly to do with a line item that the Lawley Insurance left off, which increased the amounts, not substantially, but did increase the amounts. Everything is reflected in red on there.
Thank you.
So the overall increase is a little over $2,400.
Yep.
Net increase. Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So there's a
2,421.
motion, there was a second, there's a proposed amendment. So is there a second on the amendment?
Second.
All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Next, motion, the original resolution as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. There is the next resolution we have to deal with is Resolution 1061. Under advice of council, have not been party to the conversation that the board has had regarding the subject, and to date, and I need to recuse myself.
That is correct.
Do that.
Okay. Resolution 2025-1061 is abolishment of a title. It's something that we do not use that position and wish to eliminate it, and I so move.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
Get him?
yes. Yeah, that was a quick one.
There was a question a couple weeks ago when I recused myself from a vote just about why we leave the room. And the reality is, in the past, we've practiced abstentions where a board member might sit here, but there could be conversation on a topic. So our town attorney has advised that if we're recusing ourselves from conversation prior to and the night of a vote, then we really need to withdraw ourselves from the entirety of the conversation physically, and in this case, that's the scenario. So hopefully we did that right.
We did it right. Thank you.
All right, okay. The next item on the agenda, we actually have a couple of suspension items. So I'm going to motion to leave the agenda for the purposes of adopting 3 suspension items.
Second.
All in favor? The first one,
I,
go
do you
ahead,
want me to do them?
whichever ones you want.
Okay. The first agenda item, suspension item, is Glen Park Joint Advisory Committee. The village has passed this resolution, and now the town needs to, so that we can move ahead. It's our memorandum of understanding, and that we will be spending up to $5,000 on this project for the invasive species grant. And I so move.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next item is to authorize the supervisor to execute, oh, wait,
You can do
I
that.
have them in the wrong order.
It's okay, keep going.
Which one is up there?
National Grid.
Okay,
Now we switched it. So Prairie Ponds.
Prairie Ponds, okay. This one. All right. So we want to work with a company on the Prairie Ponds Apartments Affordable Housing pilot request. They have brought a request to the town for a pilot, and we would like to use, what's the name of the company? Windsor Turner. For that, and the applicant pays the fee. They're more efficient and less expensive than the company we had been working with. So I move to use them in the future and for this project.
Okay.
Was that a motion then a second? Second it is.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is the agenda item or suspension item 3, which is the participation in National Grid Energy Savings Plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are good programs. We've done that a lot in the past. It's substantial savings on our energy bills. Did you move it?
Mike's going to
Actually, I'm going to.
Oh.
Thank you, Jackie, for that. And therefore, I will move it.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Motion to return to regular agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I will motion to open second round of public expression.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Joe Wojtowicz, 35 Bucyrus again. As some board members are wrapping up their terms, it would be useful to mention certain points about their tenure. During that period, 8 years ago, there was an open government advisory board created in 2014 by a town law that requires the board to meet at least every 2 months and to publish a yearly progress report. This board hasn't been functional since 2022, when the majority of the members' terms expired. Each town board member is required by law to appoint 2 members to the OGAB, but only 1 has been appointed in the last 3 years. Making note of this, town board? The OGAB back in 2022, in one of their minutes, noted that the town board rejected recommendations they had. So goodbye, advisory board. One issue for the OGAB would have been the town's dropping of the FOIL subject matter lists. These detailed lists show residents what records each department has on hand in case they need to examine them. Last year, the town board threw that recommendation requirement out and substituted a state report on document retention periods, which are very generic and does not identify individual record types. And FOIL laws are implemented in both state and town laws, yet we're ignoring both. I really look forward to a new board. Hopefully we can get one in here that's going to obey the laws as they are written and do what they're supposed to do. You're getting paid to do it, so go ahead and do it.
Anybody else?
Charlie Grahoviak, 92 Linwood Avenue. Thank you, town board members. Thank you, town supervisor. Thank you, town clerk, town council, everyone in attendance, for your time. Again, I'd like to just take a quick moment to summarize a few thoughts. Congratulations to the town supervisor on your final meeting. Um, a quick reminder, in case anybody has even been aware at any point. My grandfather is former mayor of the village of Williamsville, Basil Piazza, who I think some of, or several of you at least know. Um, that being said, I've lived in my own residence for over a year now and have been a resident of the town of Amherst for several years, more than 5 years. I love this place, and I again ask you to seriously reconsider the Axon Enterprise camera system installation purchase for, again, all the reasons that I don't think I have to relitigate, but are very true.
Yeah, it was withdrawn for consideration tonight.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Okay.
I wasn't sure. I misheard. Excuse me.
Understood.
Yeah. I hope it carries weight, everything spoken tonight. And again, congratulations, and everyone have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Scott Conway, 606 Highland, Tonawanda. I'd just like to express my gratitude. I didn't realize it was withdrawn for removing that item from today's agenda. I think it may be prudent to speak. I imagine it's not gone. So if you want to reintroduce it, I think it's prudent to speak with the public and be openly transparent about what these programs do and what you hope to gain from them. As I said in my speech earlier, the Town of Amherst Police Department rejected, I made 2 Freedom of Information Law requests on several topics, including just an ALPR policy, and they wouldn't give me that. And I lost the appeal, which is weird because they should have given me the policy. But I digress. I shouldn't have to issue Freedom of Information Law requests to get a policy. I think before you put this item before the board again, I would like to see a policy with it. I'd like to see considerations like this dealt with. One note I'll add. So New York State is not helping here. There are no laws that the police department will have to comply with past having a policy that they get to write for this technology. Other states are doing a better job. New Hampshire, for example, only permits a maximum retention period of 3 minutes for ALPR data if there is no match on a hot list. So if the scope of these cameras is, I want to be able to identify stolen vehicles, you don't need to store the results. You look at it, you check it against your list, you throw it out. I think that's quite privacy preserving. So I think that might be a good starting point. Thank you.
Anybody else? See none, I'm going to motion to close public expression.
Second.
All in favor? I had a couple of comments I just wanted to share as we adjourned this evening. First, as far as the license plate readers, I will say, while it's withdrawn this evening, my sense is that the town board will probably work with police to consider the use of the technology in the future. I won't be here for that conversation most likely, but the reality is, you know, there certainly are adaptations in technology that can make the business of policing and the business of public security safer, or in more and put a certain and be able to help police put their ability to keep community safety and security at its forefront, at par with what we see in the environment that would threaten that safety and security. To that end, I do think that there is a need to use adaptive technology where we can, albeit, you know, I think this board tonight is interested in having more conversation and consideration about policy. That would be my guess. I won't speak for the board. The second thing I wanted to do is just to comment and thank some people for what they've meant. I won't be able to thank everybody. I've already mentioned Justin Joe in my office. This is a town with significant community ties to its universities. And I do want to thank Presidents Tripathi, who's outgoing this year as well, and President Olson for their relationship with this community, their schools' relationships with this community, and the direction both the schools and the community are trending in. Next, I wanted to thank my wife, my parents, and my kids, my in-laws. There are lots of ways that people support the community, and there are often times where people are affected by public service when they themselves don't appear on a ballot. That's certainly true of my family. I thank them for their persistence, their diligence, their sympathy, and their humor over the years. I'm not going to try to thank all of the town and village staff because I would miss too many people. We have a wonderful set of people here who work very hard every day to make things better for residents within our community. All of our department heads, all of our staff members, I feel have a strong commitment to this community and to this town and village. It's been an honor to work with you. I will mention one person by name, just because she's been with me for nearly 2 decades. Linda Ewell's been very much a mentor to me in finance and public administration. After 18 years, I can say she's among the best administrators anywhere in government in New York State. I want to thank some of my peer elected leaders from the village, specifically Mary Lother, Basil Piazza, Dan Delano, and Chris DeQuinn. I wanted to also mention from the town, France Both, Debbie Buckeye, Angela Marinucci, Mike Sukala, Jackie Berger, and Sean Lavin. It's been an honor to serve with all of you on this board, and I look forward to seeing good things and great things to come from this board moving forward. So with that, I would like to thank everybody who has participated in comment, even in contention. Sometimes we learn and we've moved forward. The town has progressed in meaningful ways on subjects dealing with retrofit of retail space, upgrades and needed upgrades to affordable housing, green space and youth sports. And I just want to thank the communities of Williamsville and Amherst for having faith and belief in me and our team and our ideas. Lastly, I wanted to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy Hanukkah, a happy holiday season to everybody. You're all very important to me. The town and village are always going to be at the forefront of my thoughts, and I wish the community's success and great fortune moving forward. Councilwoman, do you have anything you'd like to share?
I did already.
Okay. With that, I'm going to motion to adjourn tonight's board meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Have a good night, everybody.